Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Kevin Gregg Show. We're here to renew, refresh, rebuild, examine, and use the gifts that God gave you. Good morning. I'm Kevin Gregg. Several things are on my mind today that I'd love to share with you. Gratitude, I think, is something that's really resonating for me this morning. Just being very grateful for what you have, even in the midst of some difficult and challenging things, and that things don't always go the way that you expect them to, right? I had a couple of memories that sort of popped up in my mind this morning. I remember years ago when I was about 12 or 13 years old, right? I think I talked about this before that Back to the Future was huge for me, right? Michael J. Fox's Marty McFly skating around on that skateboard. I always wanted to be like him, where it was like, don't do this. I'm saying to not do this, but this is what I wanted to do. Uh, the part in the movie where he's coming around the corner and hanging onto the back of a Jeep uh, while being on the skateboard. He just made it look super cool. Of course, as what happens with anything that gets popular, really good level skateboards ended up becoming like incredibly expensive. Uh, so even though you go down to Kmart and they have sort of like a cheap a cheap version of a skateboard, that wasn't the kind you wanted to get. I remember there was a guy that lived in my neighborhood. His name was Aaron, and he would get like the latest skateboards and the latest things. So this is 85. I remember he had a Christian Hosoi. Was it a Christian Hosoi Hammerhead? I think that was the skateboard that I got from. Maybe it was something else. I think I got something else from him first. But whatever it was, he had this skateboard. I remember I wanted to. He said that he would sell me the skateboard because his mom was going to get him a new one. Longer story that was there. God bless him. Um, but anyway, he was giving me this other skateboard, but he said that he would sell it to me for $100. He said, I'll sell it to you for $100. I'm 12 years old. I don't have $100. I had like 20. So I thought, well, I'll just do a payment plan. I remember I paid off like the first $20 of it. So I was holding on to the skateboard. I remember after school one day, because I had this new skateboard, and this is the weird way that like kids think, right? Young guys think. Here I am at this age, right, where I'm so um, uh, just focused on how I'm looking at my status. I had just gotten off of, so I'm about 13 years old at this time. I've talked about this before. My seventh grade, when I was 12 years old, was a really tough year. I ended up like gaining a whole bunch of weight. But by the time that I got into 13, I remember um, I don't know if there's people that are seeing this that remember, and I think that Scholastic still does it, but they would have like these book fairs, or we'd get these Scholastic weekly readers that would show up in our classroom. And they were these little pieces of paper. They were like these little newspaper print, usually color. And it was a thing where you could make like these book order things. I think we'd get them like quarterly. Um, but we'd get something very similar to this. So it was like a not the weekly reader. That was a thing Scholastic put out that they would send to schools. But every quarter, they'd also send in these like, hey, order your things, order books that you want to get. So different from, Amazon. Now you can just get on Amazon, just order a book, and you've got it in your house like 2 days later. That book fair thing from Scholastic was such a huge deal, right? When it would show up, you'd just be like going through it and just going, amazing. Here's my point. That school book order thing came in, and there was a book that was like on one of the third pages that was about weight loss and exercises, right? But it was specifically geared towards girls. It was a small little soft cover book. It had like a girl that was on front of it, a picture of a girl in like Olivia Newton-John's uh, spandex and pink tights and all this stuff. And I saw that book and I read the little description, which was about like losing weight and getting healthy. And I remember I was probably about 12 at the time, and I ordered that thing. I must have been 12 or 13. And I remember wanting to be so secretive about that when it showed up, because usually when the book showed up, they'd come into the classroom and then, all right, here's your orders. Make sure you get your orders. I remember getting that book and I was so secretive about making sure that I got that book, but that nobody else saw that I was getting it. That book, when I was about 12 years old, 12 or 13, had me understand what like calorie counts were or how to do exercises. So I end up using that little book. I haven't thought about this in years, like decades, over 30 years now. Oh my gosh, almost 35 years ago that this happened. I get that book. I start exercising, learning how to kind of like calorie count and everything. And I end up losing the weight and I end up like slimming down, right? To the point where my dad got like super nervous. About me with my eating habits. Because what happened was I kicked in something kicked in for me, like metabolically, where it was like the teenage hormones and stuff went, oh, okay, now we're back on track, because I like slimmed down and then I was like exercising to the point that when it came to Lent, one of those years, Lent for Catholics, the normal thing that we used to do, this is how we learned it when we were kids. It was about like, all right, you're going to give up something that you really like, right? To go through that challenge, that suffering. It's and there's adults that still do this too. And there's something to be said about, giving something up, for fasting from something, so that you realize, that dependence and that stretch that we have on God to go, all right, I'm making an effort to try and just bridge this gap and get out of desires that I have, right? They're referred to as like fleshly desires. Uh, I'm going all over the place, but that's how I'm talking today. These things are coming up in my mind. So I remember because I lost all this weight, I used to give up things like candy and chips and all this. I remember one Lent, I told my dad around this time that I'd lost all this weight that, all right, I'm going to give up chips. And my dad, he banned me from giving up chips for Lent because he could see like it was the only thing that I sort of ate, and he wanted to make sure that I was keeping weight on. But it was super sweet. Um, anyway, it's around this time, 13 years old. You're very like you're girl crazy. There's a couple of girls in class that you're just absolutely like attracted to and you want to impress. And one of those ways was like, all right, well, I'm skateboarding, so this will seem pretty cool. So one of the other guys that was in class, who, listen, to put it nicely, eh, we used to be close, but then over time we had sort of drifted apart. And there'd been almost this weird kind of like, I don't want to say like rivalry, but it had definitely been like a frenemy thing that was going on between the two of us for a while. And I wouldn't even say friends, because there were some antics that happened that's like, it's not what friends do with each other. Anyway, this dude one day after school just said, all right, well, we'll hang out for a bit, because he knew that I had this newer skateboard. And we ended up skating after I brought my skateboard to school up at St. Ambrose. This was up on Fairfax Avenue and Fountain Avenue. Is it Fairfax Boulevard or Fairfax Avenue? I think it's Fairfax Avenue. And so Fairfax Avenue and Fountain, I remember we ended up skating through a part of Hollywood. We ended up going to like a local grocery store to get like soda and candy. And it was like we're skating around, and I don't know, it felt kind of cool, right? So like we had this time together. We probably hung out for about an hour and it was cool. We were sort of skating around, and I thought, oh, we're making this, relationship with each other. He had to split. He ended up getting picked up by his mom and going home. And then I start skateboarding back to the school, because I know that that's where I'm going to end up skating back home. As I'm skating, I go down off one of the curves that's on. I remember this happened on Fountain Avenue. I come off one of the curves, and they have, these little ramps that you use for wheelchair access. And I got off of that one ramp, and then I went across the street. And as I was coming up the other ramp, the skateboard wheel didn't, there was a little bit of a ledge that was right there and it didn't clear it. So what ended up happening was the two wheels from the skateboard ended up not going straight up onto the ramp. Instead, it went sideways. And then the skateboard shot out from underneath my feet as I saw it go right into traffic, right in front of an RTD bus that I was going to try and grab. And I literally almost ran out in front to get it. And then it was too late. And the bus ran right over this skateboard and demolished it. Here was this skateboard that I was supposed to spend $100 on. It was used, and I was going to pay this kid. I mean, think about it: $100 back in 1985. That's some serious cash, serious cash. And in an instant, I'd only paid $20 for it, so I still owed $80 on this skateboard. And in an instant, boom, it was absolutely demolished. And I remember just like I screamed and just like I think I probably knelt down on the why. Um, yeah, he ended up letting me off the hook with the rest of the money. I think I probably paid him like $20 more, but he knew what had happened to the skateboard. I guess my point with this entire story is like these things happen, right? Like these curveballs can come out of left field and things that can just completely catch us unaware. And I guess there are certain ways that we can respond to it. And I've been guilty of this in the past, where in the past, it just felt like not a big fan nor a proponent of things like the law of attraction, but there is something that happens with this when how you are seeing something, how you are seeing something, uh, it's really it's a mindset issue. Because if it feels like things are always going crappy, there is a tendency in our minds, in our thoughts, and in our hearts where all we do is we look at the crappy. That's it. We can't see any of the wonderful, glorious stuff that's around us. Um, I'll tell you what we're watching that this made me think of this. My wife's been catching up on episodes of The Crown, which is showing on Netflix here in the United States. But it's about the British royal family. And we were watching specifically very, very powerful episode that deals with the moon landing. And it's also like Prince Philip, the actor that plays Prince Philip, older Prince Philip in it. Wonderful. Uh, and Matt Smith did a magnificent job playing wonderful Prince Philip at a younger age too. But I forget what the name of this current actor is. He's very, very good. He was also on Outlander for a while. Anyway, this episode deals specifically with Prince Philip and he's having sort of a crisis of faith, and it's paired in with the uh, Apollo landing on the moon in 1969. Um, there's something very powerful that he says in the episode that deals with this issue of mindset or how you look at something. There are a lot of people, and we saw this happen with the Russians and the cosmonauts, right, during the space race, right? Russian cosmonauts with their mindset, their worldview, right? Communism in its heart it's atheistic, right? There is no God. There is no God in that. And cosmonauts going up when the space race first started, saying I went up into space and I didn't see God. I just saw the blackness, the void, right? That was there. And yet you have that compared with astronauts from the NASA program getting up and saying, I was up in space and I looked down and I saw the wonderful creation that existed on this planet and God's handiwork with all of that in the heavens. And how could you not believe in a God? Um, and there's a little bit of this example that's made by Prince Philip in this episode of The Crown. This mindset of like going to the moon, and are you just looking at like the empty vastness, of the moon, or are you taking a look back at the wonderful creation that God has made? Um, I guess that this is mainly just a reminder for me as well, because we have these curveballs that get thrown at us. And we've got to, I have to, not we, I have to, that's how I've got to do it. I have to remind myself continually about the handiwork and the greatness of God and what he has done for me, and to really rest in that, because sometimes I forget that. Yeah. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts that I wanted to share with you this morning. I think that they probably came up because I got, you get this news that happens, right? We all deal with this, where out of the blue, you're going to get that news about something that has happened, uh, whether it's a financial situation or a health situation or something that happens with a family member. I mean, that's going to come. But we also can't live our life just like going, well, that's it. It's just going to be a continual series of that. It's not that. I think it's definitely taking a moment, stepping back, and realizing there's a lot of incredible glory that happens around us on a regular basis. So, anyway, that's all I've got for now. Thanks for joining us. Please head over to kevingregg.com. If you like this video, please like it, please subscribe, and share it with other people, so that we get the word out to more people. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.